One spring evening a couple of years ago, I was sitting in the brown leather chair in the living room, reading the newspaper and minding my own business, when I became aware that I was no longer alone. Looking up, I discovered that the 3 big windows that run from floor to ceiling were covered with frogs. There were hundreds of them, inch-long frogs with delicate webbed feet whose finger-like toes ended in round pads that enabled them to cling to the smooth surface of the glass. From their toe structure, size, and light-colored bellies, I supposed them to be spring peepers and went outside for a closer look. I had to be careful where I put my feet, for the grass in front of the windows was thick with frogs, waiting in patient ranks to move up to the lighted surface of the glass. I had not known before that they were attracted to light. I let my newspaper go and spent the evening watching them. They did not move much beyond the top of the windows, but clung to the glass or to the molding, seemingly unable to decide what to do next. The following morning they were gone, and I have never seen them at the windows since. It struck me as curious behavior. These window climbers were silent. We usually are only aware of spring peepers at winter's end. I first hear their shrill, bell-like mating calls in February from the top of the pond up in the field. One evening I walked there with a friend, and we sat there on the edge of the pond for a long time. Conversation was inappropriate, but even if it had not been, it would have been impossible. The bell-like chorus completely surrounded us and filled us. It seemed to reverberate with a shrill insistence of hysteria, driving focused thought from our minds, forcing us not only to hear sound, but to feel it. Comparing notes as we walked back to my cabin, we were startled to discover that we had both wondered, independently, whether that was what it was like to go mad. Last evening I was reading in bed and felt, rather than heard, a soft plop on the bed next to me. Peering over the top of my glasses, I saw a plump, proud gray tree frog inspecting me. We studied each other for quite a time, the gray tree frog seemingly at ease, until I picked him up and carried him out the back door and put him on the hickory tree there. Even in my cupped hands he moved very little, and after I put him on the tree he sat quietly, blending in beautifully with the bark. A serene frog. The sills in my bedroom are rotten, so I supposed that he had found a hole to come in through, and I wondered if he'd had friends. I looked under the bed and discovered 3 more gray tree frogs, possibly each one a frog prince. Nevertheless, I transferred them to the hickory too. There was something in the back of my mind from childhood Sunday school classes about a plague of frogs, so I took down my Bible and settled back in bed to search for it. I found the story in Exodus. It was one of those plagues that God had sent to convince the Pharaoh to let the Jews leave Egypt. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. And the rivers shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed. Oh, this was exciting stuff. My evening had taken on a positively biblical quality. I was having a plague of frogs, and had obviously had another the evening that the spring peepers had crawled up the living room windows. Well, actually, I had enjoyed both plagues, but the Pharaoh didn't. The writer of Exodus tells us that Pharaoh was so distressed by the frogs in his bed that he called Moses and said, Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. A fussy man, that Pharaoh, and one easily unnerved.
Gold sun rolls around, chocolate nipple brown, tumble from your arms like the ground. Your breasts swell and awake from sleep. Hairs will kick and leap, flowers climbing
Takes us almost up to the 11 o'clock hour. You're listening to WGDR Plainfield and WGDH Hardwick. This is Sylvia at Specks of Dust, and if you tune in next Monday, 9 to 11 p.m., we'll be, speaking of frogs and pharaohs, we'll be doing a Passover special. So that's next Monday, 9 to 11 p.m. Have a lovely week, and we'll catch you next time around. Good night.